The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Be a movie. Yeah, we're gonna be a movie.
Starring everybody
And me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily.
Be a movie.
We can watch it all develop.
Starring everybody.
And me. We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in. We're gonna start right here.
And we are going to start right here. Hello. Welcome to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast. Triple feature. Yo. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me tonight, the wonderful, the vivacious, the energetic, the colorful, Shay Tate. How do you do, madame?
I am doing pretty damn well. How are you?
I'm all right. Happy to be doing this again. We had a bit of a break there after our triple feature for Little Shop of Horrors, Jekyll and Hyde, and Rocky Horror.
Wait,
so
yeah, Rocky Horror was the one that was on that.
Yep. So we took a little bit of a break there to do Pride Month is what we did. That's why there was the break in June, but it's July now and we're back together again, and there's no use remembering when. So tonight we are doing a triple feature that really just came out of the fact that I was looking at the movies that were released on streaming and released in theaters, and I saw this Odessa on Hulu, and I looked at it and I was like, well, this looks like fun. And I was like, well, who better than Canyon? And if you can't get Canyon, who better than Shay Tate to talk about apocalyptic musicals with? So so then I was like, all right, well, what other apocalyptic musicals can I find? And I found The End, which came out at the ass end of 2024 by Neon Studios, so nobody saw it. And then Dear Evan Hansen, I think, refresh my memory, that ended up on here because I think you told me you wanted to talk about it on the podcast so you could give it the old Oz treatment, if I remember correctly. The old take it to the showers and beat it.
Yeah, it's we ended up putting it on here because I hate Dear Evan Hansen to the deepest pits of my soul, and I don't normally
flames on the side of your face.
Movies like this, yes, flames out of the sides of my face. This movie makes me unreasonably angry, and this is from someone who is usually like, if I didn't like it, it wasn't made for me.
Yes, I in my head I was thinking, I was like, and tonight at some point I'm going to hear what is it? Not to want to make a compromise, but the Shay doctrine.
Surprisingly enough, none of these actually fit the Shay doctrine.
Okay, none of these are important and wonderful and you hated them.
Yeah, none of these are important and wonderful, and I hated them.
Mm-hmm. You just hate Dear Evan
Hansen. I just flat out fucking hated Dear Evan Hansen.
Let me tell you how it's like my kids, my girlfriend, and my third thing in life is when Shay Tate is passionate about something. that is the importance in my life. That you are number 3. I'm going to answer Ronnie's question here. Is Dear Evan Hansen apocalyptic story by reading the following introduction for you all, as I've been doing with these triple features as of late. This triple feature of Odessa, The End, and Dear Evan Hansen are hope, despair, and the musical as modern confession booth. We are digging into the emotional terrain of 3 strikingly different but thematically aligned musicals. Odessa, which debuted on Hulu earlier this year, The End, as I said before, which came out the December of 2024, and Dear Evan Hansen, which graced the theaters in 2021. On the surface, these films couldn't be more dissimilar in aesthetic. One is a southern fried post-apocalyptic fairy tale. one a sleek black comedy about the apocalypse itself, and the last a grounded teen drama about lies and loneliness. But together, they form a mosaic of Western culture's collective longing for connection, identity, and redemption in a fractured world. Musicals has always been about big emotions. Characters sing when mere speech can't carry the weight of what they're feeling. But in this particular set, the music isn't just emotional punctuation, it's confession. Each film uses the form to excavate shame, grief, isolation, and the human capacity for either healing or self destruction. These aren't the tap dancing musicals of old Hollywood or even the bombastic showstoppers of Hamilton, which was in the room where it happened. These are musical dramas where the songs feel like psychological x rays. Odessa, directed by Jeremy Jasper, starring Sadie Sink, Kelvin Harrison Jr., Murray Bartlett, and Regina King, with original songs written by Jasper and original collaborators, is the strangest and most stylistically ambitious entry of the trio. Set in a mythic, decaying South after some undefined catastrophe, the film tells the story of a young woman named Odessa who embarks on a musical journey to retrieve her stolen soul. It's part Mad Max, part Homer's Odyssey, and part gospel-drenched fever dream, like you do. Jeremy Jasper of Patty Cake's fame directs with a maximalist flair, vibrant set pieces, surreal transitions, and a heavy dose of American Gothic. But what gives Odessa its emotional pull is the raw, wounded performance by Sink, who sings her way through grief, betrayal, and spiritual hunger. The music is an eclectic blend of country, soul, blues, and electropop, creating an atmosphere where the divine and debased mingle freely. Film functions as metaphor for trauma recovery. Odessa isn't just trying to get her soul back from a villain. She's reckoning with what parts of herself she lost in a world that no longer offers certainty. Her journey, scored by mournful spirituals and ecstatic screams, taps into a distinctly American anxiety. The belief that we've drifted too far from meaning and need to pilgrimage back. The End, directed by Joshua Oppenheimer, starring Tilda Swinton and George McKay, with score and choreography, Michael Levy, and contemporary dance influences, is the high concept, high art counterpoint to Odessa. It imagines a wealthy family facing the literal end of the world in a brutalist mansion where they process their impending death through songs, monologues, and hyper-stylized movement. Directed by Joshua Oppenheimer, who's famous for the act of killing, this is a film that wears its intellectualism on its sleeve, but not without emotional impact. Tilda Swinton, as the matriarch, gives a searing performance, blending detachment with desperation. George McKay of 1917 plays the estranged son, who may or may not represent the audience's own uneasy position in a collapsing civilization. The score, composed by experimentalist artist Michael Levy, rejects traditional melodies, and boy does he ever, for a sonic landscape of dread and disintegration. You know, think Bjork on the edge of a nervous breakdown. Here, the musical form becomes a death ritual. Characters sing because there's nothing left to say in prose. It's an opera for the Anthropocene. And unlike Odessa's redemptive arc, the end offers no salvation, only brutal honesty. The film critiques our cultural addiction to distraction and status, even as the planet dies around us. It's not an easy watch. Oh boy, it's not. But it's a necessary one, especially for a generation that's both hyper-aware and emotionally numb. And finally, Dear Evan Hansen, directed by Stephen Chbosky, starring Ben Platt, Caitlin Dever, Julianne Moore, and Amy Adams, with songs by Pasek and Paul of La La Land and The Greatest Showman, is the most conventional of the three. It's based on the hit Broadway musical of the same name and tells the story of a socially anxious high schooler, Evan, played by Ben Platt, who finds himself caught in a lie after a classmate's suicide. The film stirred controversy, no shit, on release, not just because of the casting of the then 27-year-old Platt in a teenage role, but because its central conceit makes many uncomfortable. A teenager lying to a grieving family for social acceptance. But set aside the memes and misfires, and the film is still a potent mirror for modern adolescence. Evan's lie is born from isolation and a desperate need to belong. The songs, especially Waving Through a Window and You Will Be Found, speak to a cultural epidemic of loneliness, particularly among teens raised on filtered versions of connection. Chbosky, of The Perks of Being a Wallflower fame, leans into the film's emotional core, even if the direction can sometimes feel a bit flat. What saves it are the performances, Julianne Moore is especially strong, and the raw honesty of the lyrics, where the end dismantles illusions, Dear Evan Hansen clings to them, then slowly peels them away. It's a film about the damage done when we're too afraid to be honest with ourselves or others, and about the small moments of grace that can still emerge from wreckage. So why these three? Why now? Taken together, Odessa, the End, and Dear Evan Hansen form a triangle of truth about the Western psyche. We're spiritually adrift, we're facing civilizational collapse, we're emotionally bankrupt. And yet, we sing! Yes. These films turn to music not as escapism, but as emotional exorcism. The genre is being used here not to entertain, but to extract. It's confession, therapy, and warning all in one. These aren't stories of Broadway or razzle-dazzle. They are stories of reckoning. Each film presents a different flavor of what it means to be human in the 21st century. The mythic, the nihilistic, the deeply personal. And they all converge on one haunting truth. People are lonelier than ever, searching for meaning in places both sacred and profane. Watching these films isn't easy. They're emotionally raw, sometimes artistically abrasive, and unafraid to point a finger back at us. They're also beautiful. They ask the question that matter. And in a time where mainstream culture often feels like it's running on autopilot, these musicals dare to feel, to grieve, to rage, to hope. So grab your headphones, maybe a drink, or five, and join us as we unpack this triptych of musical modernity. These are the songs of our time, and whether you're ready to hear them or not, they're already playing. And with that said, thank you for bearing through that with me. So let's get into Odessa. Did you hear anything about this before I threw it onto the list?
I had heard a little bit about it, but it wasn't one of those that absolutely blew up on musical theater TikTok or
Mm-hmm.
social media or anything. And honestly, I am really surprised about that. This musical is absolutely amazing. This musical is the spiritual successor to Repo the Genetic Opera.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds amazing.
It is fantastic. It is a hard rock metal opera about a corporation that takes control of the world after a pandemic of organ failures.
Oh, wow. Sounds like
Yeah.
it's got a little Y the Last Man in there.
A little bit, because the story actually focuses on a doctor and his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So Nathan is a doctor, and his daughter Shiloh is incredibly sick. And a lot of it deals with the operatic shit storm surrounding his family and the family of this super powerful mega corporation, and it's just it became a cult classic very much in the same way that Rocky Horror Picture Show is.
Okay. And you say Odessa is the spiritual successor to that.
Absolutely.
So I want to hear you explain in detail, grave detail, why. But I want to add this in. When my kids were asking me about it, because I didn't watch any of these with my kids. I mean, like I said before, I took Lily years ago, 4 years ago, to go see Dear Evan Hansen when it was in the theater. But upon rewatch, I didn't watch any of these with my kids. They were asking me about the movies, and they were like, "Can you describe Odessa to me?" And I said, "Sure, I will describe Odessa in 2 or 3 films that you've never seen before and won't understand." It very much felt like equal parts This Is Spinal Tap and Heavy Metal the movie. Like it is a weird, like, it's like someone took the Flash Gordon movie and decided what if it was a musical and less manly. So those kind of my impression of Odessa. But keep going. What makes this a spiritual successor in your eyes to the movie you mentioned previously?
So with Repo the Genetic Opera, a lot of it is about corporate greed and how the people in power take advantage of and completely control the lives of the people who are on the bottom or even just below the bottom. The story of Repo the Genetic Opera is about Nathan and Shiloh. Nathan is a doctor. Shiloh is his very sick daughter. Shiloh's mother died in childbirth due to a very rare blood disease. And Shiloh is not allowed outside of her house.
Okay.
As could only happen to further the plot, although it does kind of make sense. Shiloh ends up outside while she's trying to collect bugs because she is a junior entomologist. And she ends up in this disgusting, dirty, entirely corrupt world of opera singers and of corporate people, and living in a world where if you don't make all of the payments on your organs, they are repossessed.
Okay.
Violently.
I can see why you're connecting these two now.
Yeah, and the entire world of Odessa seems like it could be set in the same world as Repo the Genetic Opera, but it's in Tennessee. It's this highly fantastical, very dark world, where everyone except for the people at the very top are shoved under the boots and grounded to gears and live very hopeless existences until the epic story that unfolds does so. Because, and mirroring Odessa with this, Shiloh wants to get out of her home. She's isolated. She wants to go explore things and be a young woman in a world. Her father says, "No, you're too sick." Just like Odessa's mom was like, "Don't leave. It's horrible out there." But being a young person, she has to go out. She has to go explore the world, and in the wake of it, with Odessa, in the wake of her mom dying, she has nothing left out there. In Repo, she accidentally gets out. She got locked out of her mother's gravesite while she was trying to catch a bug.
Okay.
And a lot like Repo, this movie is entirely centered around music. Repo the Genetic Opera has Blind Mag, who is an opera singer, who works for Jinko, is the big corporate place that is very much like I can't remember the name of the Eye in the Sky because it was long and kind of difficult.
Okay.
But it's very much like the Eye in the Sky. The Eye in the Sky owns everything about the city that Odessa comes to, and she believes that she can change things. And that she is destined to change things. And this is very much, this is the hero's tale. This is absolutely a fairy tale. And very much like Repo, it's the young person who puts into motion the gears that will ultimately be the undoing of the big corporate bad guys.
Right.
Yeah,
there's definitely a traditional like hero's arc in this.
Yeah.
So I thought Odessa was okay. This isn't my favorite thing. It was more of like I liked the idea of it than the actual execution. The execution felt to me a bit tropey. Like, this is a little too familiar. Like, it's the kind of movie I should have watched with my kids, but like 5 years ago,
Hmm.
because this is a great kind of beginner's guide to movie tropes. Where if you haven't seen every single one of these tropes 1,000 times before, Odessa will really be impactful. I think the idea of you know sort of like Dorothy going to the Wizard of going to the land of Oz. She leaves home in the hopes for something better, encounters trouble along the way, makes new friends, accidentally, uh, takes out the bad guy, learns a lot along the way. I think there's a lot here in Odessa that I think the general audience can appreciate. And I think people who don't necessarily retain all of the information film gives them year after year after year, and kind of just sort of treat each new film experience as an hour or two of entertainment to be digested and discarded, will also probably like Odessa a lot. I do think there is a value to familiarity in film. Like, while it might bother me because I have to spend several hours a week dissecting and deconstructing this stuff, so for me, novelty has a greater value. But I fully recognize, unlike some of my peers, that familiarity is the currency of the realm. It's expressed in box office, its receipts, it's expressed in you know uh, digital watches, people watching on streaming, that kind of thing that gets tracked. So that being said, Odessa being as familiar as it is and using a lot of well-worn tropes in a very colorful, kind of queer-coded, um, you know, pseudo-futuristic apocalyptic setting, I actually think would work for a lot of people. It just didn't hit me the way that it was supposed to.
Yeah, and that's very possible. There's honestly, you may very well not like Repo.
Hmm.
It's one of those quirky cult classics that it's not the deepest story
Hmm.
ever. But for a lot of people, it hits exactly the right spot where it hits you more in the feelings than it does in the brain.
Hmm.
And Odessa definitely hit me in the feelings.
Talk to me about that. Like, when you say it hit you in the feelings, like, how so?
Um, this movie was deeply emotional, from the plot line to the music in it, and even the cinematography and the lighting for it was a very deeply emotional passion project for the people that made this. And
Yes.
I can feel how much they loved this movie with every frame of it. And a lot of the time, that is very much what gets me. I know you and also my roommate Dorian tend to analyze films mathematically, and part of that's just because he's a director, and you have to watch umpteen million hours of movies and stuff.
I I am a film digester.
Yes, and that is fantastic, and I genuinely believe that there is a lot of value in being able to, um, I'm going to say this a little weird, be able to use your brain parts to determine if something's good or not.
Hmm.
But sometimes a movie will completely override that for me.
Sure.
Um, and this movie completely overrode every single possible ounce of brain part analysis.
Don't get me wrong.
Um,
I have those moments. The Wild Robot
yeah.
last year. My top three movies of last year were The Wild Robot, The Substance, and I don't remember what the third one was. It was like maybe Dune. I'd have to go
Hmm.
back and look at my list again. But I mean, like, I remember being like overwrought with emotion with the wild robot, and the wild robot either hits you that way or it doesn't.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of in between there. But was the wild robot recognized as one of the best movies of the year? In some quarters, yes, but didn't win. I don't believe it won an Oscar, to my recollection. Maybe it did. I don't remember anymore. Um, my point being, like, to back up what you're saying, there are certain movies that, despite critical analysis, will overwhelm your senses, and as Robert says, like, or you'll artificially inflate how good they are based on its emotional resonance, which it clearly did for you. This Odessa, it did not have that impact on me. But I would be remiss if I said it's a bad movie. I don't think it is. My biggest critique of this movie, you're like, say, hey, isn't this the Rattledge Broadcasting Network? Say something terrible about a movie. All right, here it is. It's a little too familiar, for my liking. But like I said, that is somebody who watches way too many movies problem with it. The average person is going to be like, well, this is great. I think the only other criticism would be, it's yet another movie with the female lead going on the hero's adventure, which is annoying to people now only because movie culture has become so politicized.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other conversation, which I'm not going to force you into.
Well,
And I would say that for a lot of the casting in this movie, as you can see in the poster behind us.
and I can definitely understand that, but also Sadie Sink's voice.
Mm-hmm.
My God, was she perfect for the songs that they gave her?
I was like, wow, like it's the spiritual daughter of Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
Like I was getting a lot of oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz?
Oh yeah. I actually, as soon as this was over, I added the cast album to my
Mm-hmm.
Spotify, and then I went through and looked to figure out who was the real singer, and I
Mm-hmm.
was absolutely shocked when I found out that it was actually Sadie Sink, because
Nice.
I thought it was going to be some kind of a rock star or something like that.
Yeah. If we could just talk about the music for a moment, she is the music in this it really is excellent. I think she does. I think she, as you said, she's got a great voice. But I would say a lot of the songs are probably, if someone now says, no, say something really nice about this movie, say something that you like about it. Probably the best thing about it is the music. Like, in
Oh
all
yeah.
honesty, I don't feel the need to watch the movie again, but I could absolutely clean the house and listen to the soundtrack.
Oh God, the soundtrack is so amazing. Like it is a perfect mix of the old school country, like gospel-esque twangy music that I actually do like some amount of country. And this is exactly the type of country that I really fucking love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's also mixed with uh which is almost on the opposite end of the spectrum for that, with the very poppy electro swing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was a fantastic balance.
Yeah, I love a good fusion. There's I think it's called Rage of Light's the name of the band, and it mixes death metal with like techno. So it's worth a listen. They do a really, really fun cover of Lollipop. But yeah, in any case, just kind of wrapping up our review of Odessa, unless you have a lot more to say. Well, the last thing I'll say about this is thematically, I think this is a very urgent movie. In fact, when I was writing, prompting, crafting tonight's intro, I said all three of these movies speak to present day culture with a sense of urgency, unlike a lot of movies that I talk about on the Rattledge Broadcasting Network. Odessa
Yeah.
might be the most urgent, in this idea of performative rebellion, performative outrage being met with corporate cynicism. Like, it's too big. It's all just too big now. You can't get
Yeah.
around this. You can't win. For whatever humanistic, um, whatever ways you might try whatever ethical ways you might try to overthrow your corporate overlords, they're just too big now. You almost, and I'm not advocating for this. This is me talking about, I think, what the film is trying to say. The film is very much advocating for there's nothing left to do but rage. I hate to say it this way because it sounds very cliche, but rage against the machine. You have to kind of go to that angry that we have no option left violence against the way things are right now. But then you wear a moose head and you attack the Capitol, and then you get federal charges. So what do you what do you do then? But it's so funny because we reference that unfortunate incident, but the other one that always sticks in my head, and this might be a little too ahead of your time, there's a bit of an age difference between the two of us for these cultural references, but I remember Jello Biafra talking about the World Trade Organization protests that were happening, I think in 2000, where someone, as a form of corporate protest and the way things were going to, very presciently where we are now, threw a brick through a Starbucks window. So this was happening in Seattle. That was the point.
I was entirely unaware of that. I was 9 years old and listening to the Sailor Moon soundtrack.
Fantastic. Look it up when we're done here. It's a wonderful incident in corporate rebellions against corporations. But I'll give you the last word here on Odessa. I absolutely think it's worth a watch if you're feeling sort of boiling discontent with the way things are right now and need art to speak for you. Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic movie. It is a little bit tropey. But if you liked Rocky Horror, if you liked Repo the Genetic Opera, if you like kind of over the top fairy tales, you will absolutely love this.
If you like color, if you like dance, if you feel a song in your heart and you want to sing it in a country tune, watch Odessa. Don't watch The End though. Oh boy. What a polar swing this was. My God. I haven't had tonal whiplash going from Odessa to The End in quite some time. My goodness. So yeah, The End, actually, before we get to that, real quick on Odessa, Just Watch, a guide to streaming content with access to data from more than 45 million users around the world, reported that Odessa was at the top 5 in most streamed films in the U.S. from March 17th to March 30th. It's got a 39% on Rotten Tomatoes, with an average rating of 4.7 out of 10. And I'll just read one of these. William Bibiani of The Wrap, friend of the show, best friend of the show, as a matter of fact, whether he knows that or not, complimented Odessa for its energetic, bracing approach, highlighting Stink's strong performance and the film's blend of rock, musical, and post-apocalyptic elements. He appreciated the movie's exploration of music's power and limitations, stating that it succeeds in depicting a world where art plays a role in resistance. Bibiani found the film's visual style inconsistent due to its mix of retro sets and CGI, but still enjoyed the costume design and character dynamics. He also noted that the soundtrack, while effective in the moment, lacked lasting impact. So that's William Bibiani. Now let's get into The End, because it doesn't really matter. As I said before, this was directed by Joshua Oppenheimer. Stars Tilda Swinton, George McKay, Moses Ingram, Brona Gallagher, Tim McInerney, Lenny James, and Shay, my love, Shay, you wonderful human being. We must talk about Michael Shannon. Oh boy. The End premiered at the 51st Telluride Film Festival on August 31st, 2024, released by Neon in December, and received mixed reviews from critics. Yeah, I can see people fucking struggling with The End. So, before I rant about Michael Shannon, and for that matter, Tilda Swinton's singing voice, I would like to hear your thoughts on The End.
So this musical didn't need to be a musical. It would have been better as a movie, but it would have been best as a Fallout Vault.
I don't know what that is. You speak in gibberish.
Fallout is a video game about nuclear apocalypse.
Oh, the Fallout game that my son wouldn't stop talking about for months on end. Okay, got it.
Yes. This would have been an incredible Fallout Vault. Like, the entire time I was watching this,
Mm-hmm.
I was imagining myself playing the Fallout game and going through all of this, and all of their conversations and everything were holotapes and notes and pieces of information on their computers, and like corpses strewn around everywhere. Like, that's what I wanted this movie to be. This would have been an amazing Fallout vault on par with the Super Mutants and the Violin Vault from Fallout 3.
It might be the best review ever. I wanted this to be a video game. Fantastic.
Yeah,
All right. Go ahead.
it just, all of the music seemed very much like an afterthought. There was also, did you hear the music more than the lyrics? Because I wasn't sure if something was wrong with my headset, but the sound design was way off, and I could hear the orchestra well above anything that they were singing.
There's a cat that visits me every once in a while, and I don't have a pet cat. I refuse to have pets. But there's a cat that will occasionally walk into my backyard and pay a visit. And every time Michael Shannon and or Tilda Swinton sang, the cat died. I would have to go back out there and resurrect the cat, come back inside, and Michael Shannon would sing again, and the cat would die. Went through all 9 lives in the 3 hours that this fucking thing took place. It was horrible, Shay. Horrible.
Oh, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the soft songs in Sweeney Todd.
Okay. Explain.
So Sweeney Todd has some like softer, lulling songs beyond the like "We all deserve to die" and shit like that. And
I want that as my ringtone. Just anytime someone calls me, I want Shay singing "We All Deserve to Die."
I'm sure someone can help you with that.
I'm gonna work on it.
But and Sweeney Todd is not a pretty musical.
Mm-hmm.
So the original cast, everyone is like fully Broadway trained and everything, but they sing it very dirty and very grungy and very ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And even the soft songs, the very pretty, very soft, the love songs are all still kind of dirty and ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have made more sense if they'd have shown more of the outside world and how dirty and ugly that is
Mm-hmm.
for this particular musical style. But it seemed, from the way that it was portrayed and the orchestral stuff underneath it, it seemed like they were going more for classic Broadway than they were for Sweeney Todd. But they ended up hitting Sweeney Todd.
So, the first thing you said as you went into your review of this movie was the most brilliant thing you've said. Because it reminded me of, I was trying to figure out what this movie is and what it reminded me of. And hear me out on this, because I'm going to say something controversial. But I think I'm right about this. More right than I've been about anything in my life. The end reminded me of Joker Folie à Deux, neither of which needed to be a musical. And were almost seemed mocking of the medium. Like, there's almost a theater of the absurd thing going on. And the last time I mentioned theater of the absurd, I was talking about Triangle of Sadness, singularly the best movie to come out in that year. Fuck you, Robert and Alexis. Now listen, so purposely doing that to annoy people, but it seemed like they were taking the very serious threat of the end of the world and deciding that it's such an out there concept, or like our handling of it's going to be so bad, let's mock the idea through song. But we can't just mock it. If the songs are too good, this element gets lost on the audience. We have to cast this with people who can't sing, and the songs themselves have to be almost maudlin in nature.
Yeah. I mean, to be completely honest, it kind of seemed like they had a really deep, impactful story about the end of the world, and then some producer came in and was like, musicals are popular.
Have you seen that Joker movie?
I have not seen the Joker movie.
Okay.
I wasn't a huge fan of the first Joker movie, so I
Yeah.
was just kind of like, no, no, thank you.
Yeah, we had a very lengthy discussion on all things Joker over the course of 2 movies. I don't need to rehash any of it, but that first Joker movie is almost like The Wire season 5 finale sad. It's a little too sad for most people to handle. And it absolutely had its place in its time in 2019 where the boys were awfully angry. But the second one, you can ask Dorian and Mick about it because they were on that show. And we talked about how it seemed like, as a way of subverting expectations, they decided the best way to do that was through the musical because it will annoy people. And I can kind of get what you're saying in terms of like somebody not understanding what they were doing with Joker Folia do, but deciding let's do it with this. Like, you're right,
Yeah.
musicals are popular, so let's take this really crazy idea and make it a musical without understanding that some kind of musicals done certain ways are popular. See Wicked. Don't do what Joker Folia do. These are not. I believe it was Mac who said last month it was like you tried to make a smoothie out of peanut butter, bananas, avocados, and port wine and gravel. It was a very Mac thing to say, and that's kind of how I felt about the end.
Yeah. Well, and I think they could have made a musical with this subject matter.
Mhm.
I just don't think that this specific movie was meant to be one.
I think when the movie talks about like intellectualism at the crossroads with paranoia, and with a little bit of elitism in there. There's
Yeah.
definitely this idea of going all the way back to like mid 20th century eugenics philosophy of, look, we're just better than the rest of you. We're better and we deserve to live. We deserve to live through this. And like, if we can have it's funny because it's a very prescient movie. That's why I said there's an urgency about all 3 of these speaking to the very now of the moment, where there's very much, in some philosophical circles, the thought of, well, what if we just let a third of the planet die? What if we just let these people die? We're overpopulated, and I'm not saying this. I don't believe this to be true, but I am speaking for the purpose of the discussion on behalf of the people who think this way. We've overpopulated. Let's allow the fat to naturally be cut. We'll create conditions in which we don't need to go actively genociding people, but let's go ahead and create conditions to where people don't have the care that they need, and they just die. And and that very much like that intelligentsia sort of pseudo philosophy of the smartest, bestest, most talented amongst us will wait it out. Let's let the idiocracy kill itself off, and we'll wait it out, and we'll reclaim the earth when it's all over. And it's a philosophy that obviously, at a minimum, lacks humanity. And then there's these characters within the movie that shift from that philosophy because they were born into it, the son I'm talking about, to a more humanistic philosophy of this is no way to treat people. This is your idea of let the weak die should not be prevailing wisdom. You should not be rewarded for these things. And that in and of itself, I think, is an interesting movie, and I think what the end was going for. The fucking music part of it's a distraction from that.
Well, and that's part of why I think it'd make a absolutely perfect Fallout vault. That's the entire premise of the Fallout series.
I just stumbled into it unknowingly.
Yeah, because so the Fallout games are about basically the Vault-Tec Corporation, which makes nuclear fallout shelters,
Mm-hmm.
And sold them to the rich, the elite, the world's brightest.
Mm-hmm.
And with the new lore coming out in the Fallout games, they caused the end of the world because they wanted the best, the brightest, the elitist to go into their vaults and then come back and repopulate the world.
Right.
And it's about a lot of that, and a lot of the games take a really heavy look at that same sort of elitism that is very apparent in the end.
Mm-hmm. I've said it a couple of times now, and you've quietly allowed me to say it, but I want your opinion. What did you think of Michael Shannon and Tilda Swinton singing? I'm not asking you where the bodies are buried. Are you related to these two people? What's wrong with you?
So I have really mixed feelings about that.
Okay.
They are not the worst singers, but they are
Mm-hmm.
definitely not Broadway singers. Again, they would have done really well as Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett.
Mm-hmm.
The way they sing, I can't tell if they're on pitch or not. But it's a very dirty, very not classical Broadway. And
Tilda
it just,
Swinton's direction seemed to have been, I can't sing. We'll sing anyway. All right, I'll do opera. Then, then at least it'll sound like I'm singing.
yeah, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever heard, but also it wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
And in certain situations, that would be absolutely fantastic. Like there are absolutely some musicals that take advantage of the fact that their actors can't sing, or that
Mm-hmm.
their actors aren't trained to sing. And there are certain situations where that can make it more impactful. It can make it seem more real. But this wasn't one of those times. I feel like we really needed some Broadway people in there.
So, I believe his name is George? George McKay, who plays Son, and Moses Ingram, who played Girl. These are actual names in the cast. Have about as much sexual chemistry as an ice cube and a pine cone being smashed together. Like, I guess this might work somehow. The ice cube kind of gets the pine cone wet, I guess, but it's not really creating sparks. And I'll tell you, for me, that's a major miss with this movie, because if she's supposed to, through her humanity, through her vulnerability, bring him back from the dark side, and he's supposed to reject the intellectual elitism of his parents and make them confront their paranoia and prejudices, I'm not getting that in their romance.
Yeah,
This feels like the people who think Star Trek should always be, or Star Wars, George Lucas in particular, think everyone needs to be fucking super serial the whole time and not have any emotion and, and talk like they're all robots. And then, like, there are times where George McKay gets heated, and, like, he's a good actor. And I think in those moments, he by himself has enough, I don't know if sexual chemistry is the right word, but he has enough energy about him that I'm interested in what his struggle is. I could give a shit less about the girl. She never brings that kind of energy to it. And the only time I actually see any of that real dynamic energy on screen is when she's running for her fucking life. Going in, and when they're like, you can't stay here, you're not one of us, you're one of the hoi polloi. And she's like, I'll fucking die. Like, in that moment, I'm with her. I'm sympathetic, because, like, if I were in that position, I would absolutely, be fucking having a meltdown. Oh, God, I'll die. No, and, like, I'm doing it like Goofy, but, like, she's really, like, I believe she was shit her pants afraid being pushed out back into the world. And then the
Yeah.
rest of the movie, she's kind of damp toast.
Yeah, it was. They all definitely had their moments. The girl needed to be way more of a contrast to the family. Because to be completely honest, through about 3/4 of the movie, I thought this was gonna be a horror movie, and I thought the boy was gonna snap and kill everybody.
Would have been much more interesting that way.
Honestly, it would have. And to be completely honest, that's probably how the Fallout Vault would have gone.
I had this problem watching Sons of Anarchy. I need likable people. You can't all be unlikable.
Yeah.
And
Either that or people that are so unlikable that you get satisfaction from them causing their own pain.
yeah. And I don't get either of those things. Tilda Swinton Tilda Swinton is the villain of this thing. She's horrible.
Yeah.
And she's horrible in a lot of relatable ways, because we either have a mom like her or someone's mom like that. Gaslighting and not quite Munchausen by proxy, but just very undermining, very narcissistic, gaslighting kind of a lady. The kid's trying to get out from under her, and she's just like kicking him at the knees every step of the way. Like Michael Shannon, I can kind of see where he's coming from, but like I wanted Tilda Swinton to fucking buy it in the end, and I don't think she does.
So I have had, and this is a personal thing, in the last few weeks, I have watched a lot of movies where I want the male characters to get together more than I want the straight couple to be together. So the gay guy, the handyman, and
The one they call Fatso, right? Or something like that?
yeah, Butterball.
Yeah.
Butterball and the dad had way more chemistry than Tilda Swinton and the dad did.
Right? I totally wanted to see them bang more than anybody else in this movie, and that's not what the intended reaction was supposed to be.
Yeah, it wasn't, and it just the fuck. I also feel like the song that Butterball sang about missing his chance with a guy that he liked was about the dad. Like, they even held hands.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff. I think in service of what the director felt was the most important thing about this movie, which is aesthetic. I'll tell you what this reminds me of. It's like the director watched a marathon of Wes Anderson movies and said, I want to make a Wes Anderson movie about the end of the world, but also a musical, and set out to basically copy Wes Anderson's style with this.
I mean, that makes sense. But Wes Anderson's movie would have been funny.
Yeah, this has no like real humor to it. It's funny. I think as like trying to get a dumb person to watch something or consume something intellectual is an uphill fight. And you really have to be choosy with what you have to be like, this is a really smart thing. Well, I'm dumb, so you're not going to get my attention for very long if this sucks. And it's like, well, you can't show them the end. Like there's no way a dumb person gets through the end, and understands what you're trying to say about intellectualism. Like, which I understand that Neon is not known for, blockbusters, but this is so niche. Like this was a passion project without any passion, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
For just the niches of niche audiences. And like, we wouldn't even be talking about it, except I wanted to find another post-apocalyptic musical. And I'm like, oh, well, this suits my fancy just fine. And it's fairly new. I would never have watched this of my own volition. Never.
Oh, yeah, I never would have watched this either. It's kind of it's a musical for like people who like to tell people that they're smart at a bar.
Yeah. It's the kid at Goodwill Hunting who's quoting all of his textbooks, and he has to get shamed by Matt Damon. It's like that kid's favorite musical. He's never seen the musical, by the way, but he knows what it's about, and he tells people he's watched it.
Yeah.
So, do not recommend. I think as like an intellectual piece, worth discussion, I think it's good there, but as a piece of entertainment, misses the bar by a considerable margin. So
Honestly, I think if you cut out all of the music, it would be a really interesting movie.
oh, for sure. You need to beef up, recast some of the roles and beef it up in places, and have Michael Shannon bang his friend. Then I think we have a winner here.
Oh yeah.
So always, by the way, that's my rule with anything. If the movie has Michael Shannon banging a guy, 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome. Very confused viewers right now going, I don't understand him. What? Never mind. Moving on. Speaking of weirdness, Dear Evan Hansen. All right, Shay. I'm just going to kick this off right away without even getting into any demographic information. Just bare your soul to me. Come into my confession booth, say a few Hail Marys, and explain to me, without necessarily digging into the craft stuff, why do you hate this movie?
This movie is the Apple Store version of an Oscar bait movie. It's a goddamn Tony chaser. And there's not a lot of fucking Tony chasers. Like this entire movie is so corporate, and it is written by committee. And it is every single piece of this fucking movie was designed to get an award. The music is the stupid ass 2010s pop radio edit music that they had for several fucking musicals of that time period, which is so goddamn overproduced that there is absolutely, and I am spitting on my computer while I'm saying this.
Excellent. I'm so glad we did this.
But there is absolutely no soul to it. The set design for the original one, because I watched it like a good chunk of the movies that we watched that are popular musicals. I watched it when it came out as a bootleg. The set design in the original one was really good. Their social media scenes were really good. But the entire thing is so specifically designed to appeal to the widest amount of people that it as possible, that it completely misses the point. There is a movie that sits very firmly in the Shea doctrine that I think is a much, much, much better version of this story than Dear Evan Hansen was. And that is World's Greatest Dad.
Okay.
It's one of Robin Williams' last films. It is about a high school English teacher. His kid is an absolute shithead. The kid kills himself through autoerotic asphyxiation, and in order to save the kid's reputation, he comes up with a suicide note. And after all of the love that he gets for his kid's suicide note, he starts basically ghostwriting for his dead child. Because he loves the amount of attention that he's getting from it. And he basically uses his dead kid's name to publish his own work. There's the same thing happens with what's happened in Evan Hansen. There's a point near the end where the truth gets out and everyone fucking hates him, and everyone just fucking hates him. Like, the end of this movie is him having to learn to deal with the fact that he lost his entire social group. Like, everyone in the school hates him. Nobody's going to want to talk to him because he used his dead kid as a vehicle for his own work. And I feel like that is so much better of a movie than Dear Evan Hansen was. Fucking hate Dear Evan Hansen. It is a sugar-coated, over-palatable piece of shit.
Can we talk about the musical, the original musical? This is how this started, correct?
Yes, this started as a Broadway musical.
Okay. When you say you hate Dear Evan Hansen, are you only talking about the motion picture we're reviewing, or do you hate every piece of media this thing has taken shape in?
I hate every piece of media that this thing has taken shape in. I hate this. I hate this show to its core.
Okay, so from Broadway musical to motion picture, it's all pop culture pap.
Yeah, it's the entire thing is overpolished. It feels like it's been written by committee. It just there's no soul to a story that could be very deeply touching.
So I do want to read the Wikipedia entry here in the intro. Dear Evan Hansen premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 9th, 2021 as the opening night presentation and was released in the US on September 24th by Universal Pictures. The film underperformed at the box office and received mostly negative reviews from critics. Most of the criticism was aimed at the casting of 27-year-old Ben Platt as a high school student, which some, for example, video essayist Jenny Nicholson attributed to nepotism, as his father, Mark Platt, was a producer on the film. Criticism was also aimed at its direction, screenplay, visual style, lack of faithfulness to its source material, and portrayal of mental illness, though the supporting cast performances received some praise. So what major differences from the movie is there to from the stage musical?
To be completely honest, it was so long ago that I watched this movie or watched the bootleg of the musical that I'm not 100% certain. I know they cut out a few of the songs
Mm-hmm.
from it for time. That's going to happen with any musical.
Sure.
Most musicals are about 4 hours long with an intermission at 2 hours. But they cut out some of the music. I think they cut out some of the relationship building between Evan and the sister.
Okay. Is the bits between Connor and Evan similar in the movie from the musical, or is that also given short shrift? Because they have the one interaction in the library, and it goes tits up rather quickly, and then he's dead. Is that how it goes in the musical?
As far as I can recall, yes, they didn't have a hell of a lot of interaction when um in the stage play either. The entire
Okay.
point of it was that Evan didn't know Connor
Mm-hmm.
and he was making shit up the entire time.
Right. If I may, I watched this with my kids the other day, and when I watched it with Lily back in 2021, I knew nothing of this movie. Lily wanted to see Dear Evan Hansen because she had heard, being a theater kid herself, she had heard some of the songs. So she was like, "Oh, I've heard some of the songs. I like the songs. Let's go see the movie." And I took her on a daddy-daughter date. So, oh, that's fine. I'm sitting there, and I remember in 2021 watching this and going, "This is horrible." Like, not even like the movie in and of itself. I don't have as strong a reaction to it as you do, but your reaction to it is the most favorite thing in my life right now. And I want to find more things you hate. But I just remember thinking, like, I didn't have to think about the movie as much as I'm just reacting to it cold. And my cold reaction to it is, this is wildly unsettling. I hate this. I can't wait for it to be over. I don't like this kid. I don't like what's happening to this family. Then the movie's over, and I'm focused on my daughter again, and Dear Evan Hansen fell out of my brain. I had to watch it again with my kids, and as you know, as we do when we watch movies together, that we they will stop and ask questions. We will have discussions while the movie is on. And I have to kind of relive that again, but I have to think about it now critically for the podcast discussion. And the movie, there aren't very many things, because of my sense of humor and the way I was brought up and the life that I've led, that make me as uncomfortable as this movie does. One of the worst things that could ever happen to somebody is losing a kid, and it's made exponentially worse when that kid commits suicide. And you want me as an audience member to empathize with this poor mentally ill boy who is suffering from anxiety and depression, the loss of his father, the feelings of abandonment, feeling like his mother doesn't love him. Like, I am perfectly willing to empathize with all that. That's all horrible too. And he has such moral ambiguity that he decides, in a moment of weakness, he's going to lie to this bold-faced lie to this family, and then double down and triple down, and only when his trust is betrayed by Hollywood's greatest monster, Amanda Stenberg. The fuck's her name again? Amanda Stenberg, for all you Acolyte fans, is when that's when it becomes too much, and then he comes clean. I mean, he doesn't come clean to the. He doesn't just come clean. He has to do like a whole thing on Instagram about it, and then then he's a leper the next day. This movie is hard to get through, and here's the thing: it's treated, because it's a musical, because it's teenagers, because as you, and I think what you said is brilliant, because you're like, because I didn't think about it this way, because I'm not. What the Tonys like and what they don't like is not something I consider very often. As I like musicals, I don't study them the way that you do. So when you're like, this is a Tony chaser, one, I snickered, but two, I was like, I've never even thought of it that way, because I wouldn't know what the Tonys liked if it bit me in the ass. So I'm watching this, and this is like, it's so, like, the whole bit where they're writing the emails, it's such an upbeat song. It's a great song. I shouldn't like you. You're a terrible human being, and just because you're mentally ill, just because you've had tragedy befall you, you don't get to be a shitty person. And I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. Just because bad things have happened to you and you're struggling with mental illness doesn't give you the right to be shitty. And he is. And it's great that he learns a lesson, but far too late and under the wrong circumstances.
Yeah, and it's also part of why I hate this movie so much, because it focuses on this kid's anxiety when it really should have been focusing on the impact of suicide on families, on communities, on people all around the person that did end up getting hurt.
Yeah.
And it very much, it cheapens the impact of something that could, honestly, an event that usually permanently destroys a part of the lives of everyone around them.
Amy Adams is the best part of this movie, and she's the one I empathize with the most. You know, I'll never know what it's like to be a mother who loses, their child, obviously, but I've certainly, worry, certain things that have happened, like, oh, well, how would I feel? Like, what would happen if I lost my kid? It would be the worst thing in the world. I don't know, I don't know if I'd ever recover. And I overly empathize with the movie in that sense, and I definitely over empathize with, like, I don't blame Amy Adams for hoping, wishing, grasping at straws that there's something left of her son worth hanging on to.
Yeah.
And this is a much better, I think, story if we learn a little bit about why Connor goes off the deep end the way that he does. Like, when we meet him, he's already like a fully formed angsty teen. And the inciting incident is Evan's writing a letter to himself about how he feels about his sister, who all we know by that point is she's pretty. Okay. And like a letter about how pretty his sister is the final straw that breaks the camel's back, and we never fully explain why Connor got to the place that he got to where he felt like there's no reason to go on. And that is an essential centerpiece of this movie that is utterly missing, and it really bothers me.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely bothersome, and it's part of it's part of the corporatization of this movie. They don't want it's pretending to be deep
Hmm.
by looking at all of these issues from the perspective of a boy who has anxiety. And it's looking at it from the easiest perspective possible. It's looking at it from the perspective of someone who didn't have anything to do with the story until they started lying.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
we absolutely needed more information about what was going on with Connor. We needed more time with Connor. We
Yes.
needed we needed a story where Evan and Connor actually did start to become friends. Where maybe before the letter incident, Connor actually did start talking to Evan about things and revealing why he was in trouble or what was going on with their family. Because there was obviously something that happened involving his sister.
Mhm.
Because that kind of was the inciting incident. So what happened? What did Connor have to protect his sister from? What was Connor going through that made him that protective of his sister?
Right. Yeah. Connor, weirdly enough, for as little he's in the movie, one of the more interesting characters in the movie. I'm going to put this up. This is my girlfriend commenting, who's watching the show on Facebook. Isn't that the movie imitating life? Not having enough time with someone and knowing why. I mean, that's a good defense of the movie. They purposely are leaving out bits of information because you're not always going to know. It's not always wrapped up neatly in a nicely written suicide letter as to why people do what they do. As a matter of fact, suicide, it's in and of itself being a selfish thing. Sometimes it's made even worse by the fact that they don't leave anything behind, which is the point the mother is trying to make. Is like she's so desperately trying to believe that this letter was written to Evan from her son as to have some explanation. It's funny. I was talking with a patient today, and he's had a great, many medical incidences happen to him, and he's just like, I'm so angry all the time, and I just keep replaying the events in my head over and over again. Why did this happen to me? What went wrong? Like, and examining every piece of game tape there is to look at as to, demand an answer to the unanswerable. Why did this happen? Why me? Why did something that should have gone right go so poorly? And gosh, the answers to life's mysteries are way more complex than I think we realize. Did we need to Erica's point, did we need a full on like subplot as to what drove Connor to where he got to? Probably not. It's probably more realistic that we be somewhat in the dark. But I do think that some indicators would have beefed up the story a little bit more, because you're right, it's entirely too reliant on Evan's mental health issues, which also are not paid enough time and attention to. Like the stuff with him and his mother, you don't really get the sense that there's sort of a deep-seated resentment between the two of them until much later in the movie, and I wish we had that earlier. We also don't really get a sense of what the impact of the father leaving was until it's far too late in the movie. Because we have to spend so much time with all this other crap. And I'll just say it directly. Watching a kid lie over and over and over again because he doesn't like himself and he wants to feel part of a family, to grieving parents, beyond distasteful. And like, this is coming from me, Porny McGee. But I watched this movie and I absolutely it doesn't emotionally sit right with me, and I fucking hated the experience of watching it. And I would watch it again just to talk about how much I hate this movie. And then I can't, I don't have the level of insight that you do into terms of like movie craft when it comes to musicals. So I don't know. So I don't know like that element of it. Like if I divorce myself from my own personal feelings about the subject matter and just review it strictly as a movie, yeah, the songs are nice. The songs were absolutely, singable. The my favorite one is the one where they're, where they're making up shit about Connor and they're playing video games and shit like that. Um,
Which, to be completely honest, that should not be your favorite song because it's catchy. That should be the that's the fucking villain song.
The villain songs are always catchy. Do you know how often I sing "No One Fights Like Gaston"?
Yeah, but like, if you listen to that song just out of context, you can't identify it as a villain song. Like it's part of that. It was made for radio play. Like you don't.
In that sense, I see what you're saying. When you hear Gaston, you know it's the villain song. You're absolutely right. I didn't even connect that it was the villain song until you said it.
Yeah, like your bad guy song should not be radio playable.
Yeah, Dear Evan Hansen is a hard watch.
It's a hard watch for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, the character is very unlikable, and he's they try to redeem him at the end, but it's like it's a bit of an uphill. It's like he's supposed to be redeemed at the end because the lead is supposed to be redeemed at the end, and there's a lot of work to be done to sort of artificially create that. It didn't. I cried a couple times during Dear Evan Hansen, but not like because I'm so overly sympathetic to to Evan. Like I'm crying because like this is hard to watch, and I'm overly again a lot of the. I'm crying because of the stuff that Amy Adams goes through. And I would
I
have, like I
cried
said,
during Dear Evan Hansen, but it had
Mhm.
absolutely nothing to do with the story. It's because
Mhm.
when I first watched this, I was going through some serious shit, and watching this, I remembered the shit, and
Mhm.
like was sad about that shit for half of it and didn't pay attention.
So my son, who's absolutely brilliant and very much a lot like me, is watching. He's never seen Dear Evan Hansen before, but he wanted to watch it because I was going to watch it, and he wanted to be part of things. So he's sitting next to me, and he's watching this movie, and he looks at me. He's like, "Am I supposed to feel bad for these people? They're all monsters." And then we then we get to the eulogy scene where Evan comes out and he's and he's reading off the cue cards and he drops them and he knocks over the microphone stand. And the first thing somebody does is pull out a phone to record him, presumably to put it up on social media. And my son looks at me and he was like, I don't like this movie. There's not a redeemable person in here. They're all monsters. You mean to tell me this is my son, my 11-year-old son, in the middle of a eulogy, somebody struggling on stage, and the first thing everyone thinks to do is pull out phones to record him for mocking at a later date? You're all monsters. You deserve going back to you deserve to be, left out in the apocalypse. You shitty people, you. My son. And he was like, I can't with this fucking movie anymore. And then Evan starts to sing, and we decided that's always the best way to handle an embarrassing situation. I have to talk about this because we've somewhat touched on craft, but not as much as I'd like. So I got to tell you how the way they the end was awkward, the way they would interject music into it, but we both felt like it was almost purposely done that way. This is tone deaf, like incompetent. So, for example, and I don't know if the musical's like this, like the stage musical, but my favorite thing, the stage one is what drove my son nuts. My favorite awkward singing moment is the kid comes in, to tell. He came there for, I think, one reason, but they're going on about something, and they want him to do whatever at the end of the movie, and he's like, "All right, this has gone too far. I have to come clean." It's a talking scene, and when he's cornered, when the mom's like, "Wait, what? You've lied to us this entire time?" His response is to sing back at her. And
To be completely honest, that's kind of the most believable part of the musical, and it's primarily because I sing when I'm stressed out.
okay,
It's not good
your
singing, but it's
coping
like I don't
your
like this.
your coping mechanism, Patton Oswalt's coping aside, it's it's an awkward scene because no one else is singing, and he's singing, and it's not like his inner monologue. He's singing his response to her that she's not
Yeah.
responding like they're not having like a this isn't fucking Jean Valjean and singing at each other's faces 2 4 6. It's not that bit of Les Miserables where they're having an argument in song. This is utterly one sided, and it's just awkward as fuck. And
It is,
it breaks the tension of the scene because it made me laugh.
and I think what it was supposed to be doing was it was supposed to be exemplifying the fact that Evan was not on the same page as the family, and that he had vastly different motives, and that this confrontation, and he was dealing with things the same way that he always deals with things when the family actually wanted real answers,
Mm-hmm.
and for him to stop living in this fucking fantasy world and tell them the truth. But it didn't come across very well. There are a lot of musicals where you can do stuff like that, where one person is talking and one person is singing,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get a juxtaposition with someone living in the real world and someone living in the musical fantasy world. But Dear Evan Hansen didn't do that very well.
Well, my takeaway from that scene is I'm going to start doing that now. When I feel cornered, when I feel like like I'm in trouble, I'm just going to be like, I'm sorry. I'm just going to just fucking belting out songs like Randy Orton.
I mean, if you dead ass want to see that in real life, let me drive around Florida with you. You will hear a lot of me singing exactly what's going on.
Musically confronting me. I said no pickles. Like, all right.
What the fuck is that guy doing? That's not a turning lane.
Florida man, doing things a Florida can. All right. Little They Might Be Giants for everybody. Well, Shay, I think when I start doing jazz hands and They Might Be Giants parodies, we have reached the end of this journey. How you feeling? How'd you like tonight's show?
I loved it. I love hanging out and talking with you about stuff. Odessa honestly made up with me having to put up with Dear Evan Hansen and the meh that was the end.
Did you have the cathartic experience you wanted, finally getting the Dear Evan Hansen monkey off your back?
I mean, I will complain about Dear Evan Hansen to anybody that will listen to it, just like I will complain about polyester to anybody that will listen to it.
I just want to see you on a street corner with a sign that says, "We'll complain about Dear Evan Hansen for money." Fantastic.
Absolutely. I will complain about Dear Evan Hansen for free. I should, you know what? One of these days I should steal a microphone from a street preacher and just talk about how bad Dear Evan Hansen is.
I want you to now open up your own TikTok, and your entire content feed is just Dear Evan Hansen complaints. Yeah, you have enough material apparently. All right, folks, that is the end of our triple feature tonight. If you like Shay Tate, and why wouldn't you? She's knowledgeable and she's cute as a button. She'll be back for a director focus. We'll take a break from strict musicals, though one is a musical. We're going to be doing a Terry Gilliam focus, and we're going to be looking at Time Bandits, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, because, why not be completely, thematically fucking
all over
the road. As far as this week goes, we kick things off with, I've watched a lot of movies this week. We kick things off with a triple feature of Good Morning Vietnam. Rainmaker! Sorry, that's another thing. Sleepers and Wag the Dog. On Monday, we talked Jurassic Park Afterbirth. I said what I said. Last night, speaking of Rainmaker, myself and Harry Broadhurst talked Game Changer Wrestling, Backyard Wrestling, and the 87 other shows between this week and next week that is going to be on WWE and AEW television. Tomorrow, I'm doing an extra special late night show with Pat Mullen. At 11 o'clock, we're going to be talking Tulsa King Season 2. I'll be picking up where Ronnie left off. Sunday, we've got the Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox. It'll be myself, Jesse, Robert Cooper, and Mick Wanamaker, and we'll be talking Bloodywood, New Delhi. We'll be reviewing Superman, the James Gunn Superman, on Monday, July 14th. Wednesday, we're kicking off I Know What You Did Last Summer Week. We'll be starting with the Amazon show. That'll be myself and Alexis. Thursday is The Long Road to Ruin. Myself and Sean will be talking about the I Know What You Did Last Summer trilogy. And then Saturday, Evan Bevan's Good to His Mother, Some Language. We'll be doing a comic strip. It'll be Hercules, the comic book, and then the movie from 2014 with Dwayne the TKO Johnson. So I hear you have things to plug, Shay.
Yeah, I am Shay Tate of Tate FX. If you need monsters, clothes, or props, I am definitely the person to come talk to.
Fantastic.
Past that, I don't have a whole hell of a lot.
All right. We'll see if we can get you on a few more shows here, because you're always wonderful insight. So with that said, for Shay Tate, I don't know what I'm doing next. Be well, be safe, and behave.